This week on Culture Q,
Gus Kenworthy is heading to the Olympics.
we chat with drag star Rani from Queen of the Universe.
And an 11-year-old trans activist makes Time's Kid of the Year.
What is going on? It is Lalwani here.
And I'm Shira Lazar. This is Culture Q.
And here are some of the highlights this week in queer culture. Now the Winter Olympics are right around the corner, and everyone's favorite freestyle skier Gus Kenworthy is joining the growing number of LGBTQ athletes headed to Beijing this February. While Kenworthy is no stranger to the Olympic Games, having competed in 2014 and 2018, this will be the first time representing Great Britain and his last competition before his retirement. But he's just happy to be competing, as he's recently dealt with health conditions. In an emotional Instagram post last month, Kenworthy opened up about a recent concussion, past brain injuries, and a case of COVID-19 that he feared would stop his chances of going to Beijing. He said, "There was a moment where I was nervous that even having my Olympic spot, I might not be able to do it because at that moment, I really couldn't ski." Thankfully, he's now healthy and heading to the halfpipe this February, in what is poised to be the queerest Olympics yet, with more out LGBTQ athletes competing than ever before. Kenworthy isn't the only beloved queer Olympian making headlines. Figure skater turned commentator Adam Rippon announced last week that he and his fiancée, Jesse-Pekka Kahala, secretly tied the knot over New Year's. And Rippon shared the news on Instagram because how else do we communicate things like that in 2022? In the post he said, "Surprise, we're married." One afternoon, JP and I looked at each other and said the very classic romantic phrase of, "Let's just go do it now." So we did. The couple shared photos and a video of the two of them and the cutest witness you've ever seen, their dog Tony, who was present for the ceremony. Even though this was a last-minute wedding, it does not mean it was any less special.
More emotional than I thought it was gonna be. Yeah. Because we were both like, you know, we're just so excited to get to be married and everything, and we've been waiting to do it for a while. That was like a moment where I wasn't expecting it to be so sweet.
And for everyone who's asking if they're gonna have kids, the two had a very cheeky response.
My womb is barren and JP's tubes are tied. So we unfortunately are not having kids. We can get more dogs from Tijuana.
Well, from us here at Culture Q, a big congratulations to the two of you and all the puppies to come.
The fashion world recently lost two LGBTQ icons and industry giants. Vogue's first Black creative director and later editor-at-large, André Talley, passed away last Tuesday at the age of 73 after suffering from an unknown illness. Known for his signature caftans and capes, the fashion pioneer spent his years in the industry championing diversity, working for Women's Wear Daily, Interview, W, The New York Times, before finally making it to Vogue, where he worked for nearly 30 years. While he didn't talk much about his sexuality, he did confirm on The Wendy Williams Show that he did not identify as straight.
So you're saying you're heterosexual?
I'm saying not I'm heterosexual, I'm saying I'm fluid in my sexuality, darling.
Okay.
In his lifetime, he published 3 books, including The Chiffon Trenches, a memoir, which became a New York Times bestseller. Many have taken to social media to mourn his passing, including British Vogue's first Black editor, Edward Enninful, who said this: "R.I.P. dearest André, without you, there would be no me. Thank you for paving the way." And Preston Mitchum, the Trevor Project's attorney and director of advocacy and government affairs, tweeted, "André Talley made it possible for so many Black queer boys and men to express ourselves out loud. May he rest in peace and power." Legendary French designer Manfred Thierry Mugler also passed away at the age of 73, leaving the fashion world devastated. Fashion columnist Evan Ross Katz described him as the fashion designer, the myth, the legend, the photographer, the director, the choreographer, the perfumer, and the so much more. He boasted a career that spanned almost 50 years, working with big-name celebs like Madonna, Naomi Campbell, and even working as an artistic designer for Beyoncé's I Am World Tour. Openly gay himself, Mugler kept diversity at the front of his mind, often using his runway shows to confront ageism and transphobia, and was known to use non-traditional models like drag queens and sex workers. After his passing, people have been sharing their favorite pieces of his on social media, also noting the impact that his designs had created in the industry at large and what a legacy he was leaving behind. RuPaul's Drag Race star and high fashion model Miss Fame shared a heartbroken tweet saying, "Rest in power to the master, Mr. Manfred Thierry Mugler. Thank you for inspiring to dream of beauty."
This week, I got the chance to sit down with drag superstar Rani to chat about their experience on the new Paramount Plus singing competition show, Queen of the Universe. So we're here with the lovely Miss Rani.
Namaste, Andy.
How did you become so beautiful of a singer? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, what are some tips and tricks to become a beautiful singer like you? Celine Dion, also, like, I could never.
Oh my God, I love. Like, I think the vocal trinity of the 90s was what made me raging, flaming, queer batch. You know, it was it's their fault. It's their, honey. It was them. It was them. It was them. And it was definitely Celine. It was definitely Whitney with all the drama. They're just standing there and the drama is coming from their voice. You know, they didn't need fancy videos and, you know, people doing each other and all of that. And it just was just Mariah, Whitney, and Celine singing the house boats down.
People obviously want to be involved in the drag scene or perform like you do. What are some obvious, like, tips that you would give to anybody who is just getting started and wanting to get into a culture like ours?
I just think that we need to build each other up. We have gone through 3 waves of a global pandemic. And if it hasn't taught us anything, I don't care if it hasn't taught you maths and if it hasn't taught you economics and policies and shit. But if it hasn't taught you basic humanity and empathy, then you have failed and this was your test, and you have basically failed as, you know, an entity, a human being that breathes the same air as the next person. And so I just believe that it is very, very essential that, you know, as a drag artist, I can be funny, but I can also be empathetic. I don't have to be a cutthroat bitch. I can be that figure that I didn't have for myself for the next generation. I choose that. I choose to be the figure that, you know, holds your hand and says that you can do this.
What is something right now that you're working on that no one knows about that you can give us like a little inside scoop on? If you're willing to do everything, what is the next everything?
I want to have a hit single. I definitely want to make music. Music is my life. I can't lie. But what I am coming up with is a wonderful, beautiful podcast that I have done with one of the biggest music OTT platforms in India, in Asia, I think. And it's about drag. It's about drag in India. And we also have some of my friends from Drag Race, some of the winners from Drag Race on this podcast that we're going to interview, and we're going to also have their perspective on because they've come to India, they've visited India, they've performed with us, and they've toured with me, and I want to go there and tour with them. So I need the audiences there to know about us, and the audience is here to know about them. So, you know, we're kind of finding that perfect synergy through this podcast, and I hope people enjoy it. It's releasing in the first week of Feb.
Thank you again to Rani for taking the time to chat with us today, and you can watch them singing their heart out on stage on Queen of the Universe, all episodes streaming now on Paramount Plus.
And now it's time to take a quick look at LGBTQ news happening around the world. Up first, the NCAA has set a new policy for transgender athletes that will go into effect immediately. It ends an 11-year uniform policy that was based on hormonal requirements. The new guidelines take more of a sport-by-sport approach. Many worry that this creates different standards for trans athletes, as many of these sports don't have trans-inclusive policies in place and don't seem equipped to deal with the new responsibilities, especially as anti-trans bills continue to gain steam across many states in the U.S. Also happening stateside, a new proposed law in Florida would ban teachers from talking about gender identity or sexuality in schools. It's referred to as the Don't Say Gay bill. The proposed legislation would allow parents to take legal action if teachers bring up sexual orientation and gender identity in classrooms. Okay, so that would mean no mention of queer history or identities. Florida, you suck once again. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg's husband, Chasten, took to Twitter condemning the bill and specifically calling out Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, saying this: "This will kill kids. You are purposefully making your state a harder place for LGBTQ kids to survive in." Florida. On a slightly more positive note, let's move on to Germany. 120 church officials came out of the closet in a stand against homophobia within the Catholic Church. Former and current priests, administrators, and teachers publicly announced their coming out in a Change.org petition saying they, quote, no longer want to remain silent, and gave a list of demands to the church. Hell yeah! I mean, yeah. The demands include fair employment opportunities for LGBTQ people within the church, the ability to live and work being openly queer, and the respect of same-sex unions. And that's your look at LGBTQ news happening around the world.
Okay, I know there's a ton of streaming platforms to choose from, but we're here to tell you why Revry is the one to choose, especially with this premiere happening on Friday, January 28th. Steam is a contemporary Western musical thriller hybrid that follows the conductor of a steam train as he spends a dangerous night with an outlaw. Starring Broadway star Kobe Getzug, the short won Best in Show at SCAD Savannah Film Festival, and is sure to liven up your movie night. And you're probably wondering, is there more? And yes, there is, with this hilarious series called The Filth. The Filth is a story of two best friends, Stella and Max, as they try and mostly fail to navigate their increasingly complicated love lives. From crushes on straight roommates to frenemies, this comedy series will keep you laughing, which is all we need these days, so be sure to check it out. Both of these titles and more can be found right here on Revry, so once you're done with our show, just keep on streaming.
Now, I know the news has been disheartening with all these anti-trans bills, but one young girl is here to inspire us all. Kai Shappley, an 11-year-old Texas native, was just named a finalist for Time's Kid of the Year award for her work as an activist for trans rights. Shapley made headlines in 2021 when she bravely spoke in front of the Texas Senate committee, urging them not to pass legislation that would ban gender-affirming care for minors.
I love ballet, math, science, and geology. I spend my free time with my cats, chickens, FaceTiming my friends, and dreaming of when I will finally meet Dolly Parton. It makes me sad that some politicians use trans kids like me to get votes from people who hate me just because I exist.
She is now one of 20 finalists for the Time Award that honors kids who are leading the way in science, education, and social justice. And she responded to the nomination sharing, "It makes me want to keep on going, knowing that there are so many people who rely on me." Just wow. Thank you, Kai, for your courage and bravery.
And honestly, I just have chills listening to that. And we'll leave you with that note today. It's André Lalwani signing off.
And I'm Shira Lazar. Thank you again for hanging out with us, as always.
And be sure to catch Culture Q every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, live and always on demand, right here on Revry.